The rifle's crosshairs rested on his chest when fate intervened wearing a diner apron. One shattered tray, one missed heartbeat, and suddenly an immortal predator owed his life to a woman who didn't know monsters existed until one almost died in front of her. Hey everyone, so glad you're here today. It really means a lot. I'd love to know where you're watching from. So go ahead and drop your city, state, or country in the chat. And if you're watching live or catching this later, say hi anyway. Can't wait to connect with all of you. The night Sebastian Caldwell almost died began like every other carefully rehearsed illusion of his modern life. Rain slicked the downtown streets of Seattle, turning neon signs into smeared watercolors and glass towers into towering mirrors. Traffic hummed below, constant and forgettable, the way Sebastian preferred it. He sat alone in a corner booth of the cafe on Fifth Avenue, hands folded neatly, eyes lowered as if he were simply another late-night patron escaping the weather. To anyone watching, he was unremarkable. 30-something, clean-cut, expensive coat, a man who belonged to spreadsheets and boardrooms, not legends and blood. The truth had survived longer than most civilizations. Sebastian didn't drink coffee. He never did. He ordered it anyway, steam curling between him and the world, a prop in a performance perfected over centuries. His reflection didn't appear in the polished steel napkin dispenser beside him, and he chose the seat where the overhead lights were dimmest. Old habits, necessary ones. Across the room, Rosemary Hale wiped down the counter with slow, practiced movements. She had worked the late shift long enough to know the rhythm of the night. The drunk laughter at 10, the exhausted silence at midnight, the fragile calm that settled just before closing. She noticed Sebastian the way she noticed everything unusual, not with fear, but with curiosity. He never touched his drink. He always tipped too much, and the security camera above the register glitched every time he walked in. Rosemary told herself it was faulty wiring, or coincidence, or her imagination stretched thin by long hours and short sleep. Still, she watched him now, unease threading quietly through her chest as rain tapped insistently against the windows. 3 floors above them, Cole Ransom adjusted his scope. The rooftop was slick and exposed, the kind of place amateurs avoided. Cole didn't mind. His breathing was steady, his heartbeat slow. The city unfolded beneath him in glowing grids, and the cafe's large front window framed his target perfectly. One clean shot. Chaos would do the rest. His phone vibrated once in his pocket. Kensington now. Cole exhaled. Inside the cafe, Sebastian's senses flared without warning. Not danger. He would have recognized that, but something sharper, like the air itself recoiling. He looked up just as Rosemary's gaze snapped toward the window, her eyes narrowing. She saw it then, a brief, deadly glint on the rooftop glass across the street. Metal catching light. Intent. Her body moved before her thoughts caught up. "Sebastian!" she shouted, though she didn't know why she knew his name. The tray slipped from her hands and shattered against the tile, the sound cracking the room open. The rifle fired. Glass exploded. The bullet screamed past Sebastian's head, close enough to tear skin, close enough to remind him that immortality was not invincibility. People screamed. Chairs toppled. Someone pulled a fire alarm. Smoke hissed from the espresso machine as it was knocked sideways. Cole was already gone. Sebastian stood frozen for half a second too long, staring at Rosemary as if she had just rewritten the laws of his existence. Then he moved, too fast to be human, grabbing her wrist and pulling her down as more glass rained around them. "Stay low," he said, voice calm but charged, eyes glowing faintly in the chaos. Rosemary's heart hammered. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt anchored, held in place by the firm warmth of his hand and the certainty in his voice. Sirens wailed in the distance. Minutes later, police flooded the street. Paramedics checked for injuries. Questions flew. Sebastian slipped back into stillness, the mask settling effortlessly over his features. Investor. Victim. Lucky. Rosemary watched him from behind the counter, hands trembling as she poured water for a shaken customer. When their eyes met again, something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, gratitude, and the faint beginning of something dangerous. Outside, unseen and untouched, Charles Kensington watched the aftermath from a black sedan. His jaw tightened, not with anger but interest. So, he murmured, fingers tapping the glass. He bleeds. If you can't stand men like Kensington, men who believe power gives them the right to decide who lives and who dies, then you already know where you stand. People who side with monsters stay silent. The rest speak up. And somewhere in the city, Sebastian Caldwell turned back toward the cafe, toward the woman who had saved him, knowing the careful life he'd built was over, and that for the first time in centuries, he didn't regret it. Hey, if you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. It really helps me keep creating content for you. The morning after the shooting arrived quietly, as if the city itself were pretending nothing extraordinary had happened. Rain washed the streets clean, erasing the chalk outlines of panic. The police tape already gone, the cafe's shattered window boarded up with raw plywood. Seattle moved on. Sebastian Caldwell did not. He stood in the shadowed living room of his penthouse apartment, watching the sun crawl higher through the clouds without ever touching his skin. The space was modern, minimalist, and cold. Steel, glass, carefully curated art that meant nothing to him. He hadn't slept. He never needed to. But the night clung to him anyway, replaying itself in sharp fragments. A tray falling. A woman shouting his name. A bullet that should have ended him. Rosemary Hale. He said her name aloud, tasting it. It felt grounding in a way few things did anymore. Humans passed through his existence like seasons, brief, fragile, forgettable. Rosemary was none of those things. She had seen the threat before he had. She had acted without hesitation. She had saved him. That made her dangerous. Across the city, Rosemary sat on the edge of her bed, wrapped in an oversized sweater that still smelled faintly of coffee and rain. Her apartment was small, warm, cluttered with secondhand furniture and soft yellow light. Normally, it was her sanctuary. This morning, it felt unfamiliar, like she crossed a line she couldn't step back over. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the flash from the rooftop, heard the crack of the shot, felt Sebastian's hand around her wrist, strong, steady, impossibly fast. Not human. She laughed softly at herself, a brittle sound. Of course he was human. He had to be. And yet, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. She stared at it for a full 10 seconds before answering. Hello. Rosemary, Sebastian said gently. It's me. Her breath caught. How did you get my number? A pause. May I come see you? She should have said no. Every instinct screamed that letting him into her space would change something forever. Instead, she whispered, okay. 30 minutes later, Sebastian stood in her doorway, looking strangely out of place without the cafe's dim lighting to soften him. Daylight filtered around him, never quite touching his skin. His eyes scanned the room, alert, protective. I'm sorry, he said. I shouldn't have involved you. You didn't, Rosemary replied. Someone tried to kill you. I reacted. He studied her, as if committing her to memory. That reaction saved my life. The words settled between them, heavy and intimate. Before either of them could speak again, miles away in a private office overlooking Puget Sound, Charles Kensington watched surveillance footage on a wall of screens. He rewound the moment again and again, the waitress dropping the tray, the target turning, the miss. His lips curved into a thin smile. Find her, he said to the man standing behind him. Anyone who interferes becomes leverage. Kensington leaned back, fingers steepled. Evil like his thrived on silence and compliance. If you're the kind of person who believes people like him shouldn't control the world, then you already know what side you're on. Those who stay quiet empower men like Kensington. The rest speak out. Back in Rosemary's apartment, Sebastian told her the truth. Not all of it. Not yet. But enough. There are people, he said carefully, who don't want me alive. Very powerful people. Rosemary crossed her arms. And you just what? Some unlucky guy. His gaze held hers, unblinking. I'm older than I look. A beat passed. Then another. Are you saying you're? She stopped, swallowing. That's ridiculous. I know, he said softly, but I won't lie to you. Not after last night. She searched his face for deception and found none, only restraint and something like longing. If you're dangerous, she said, you wouldn't be standing here warning me. A smile touched his mouth. You're perceptive. Their closeness felt electric, charged with fear and curiosity and something warmer. Sebastian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed hers. She felt heat, life, a steady pulse. Human enough. I can protect you, he said. Rosemary shook her head. I don't need protection. I need honesty. He nodded. Then stay with me today. Let me show you what your instincts dragged you into. Outside, the city buzzed, unaware that lines had been crossed, alliances forged, and that a waitress and a vampire were about to change each other forever. Somewhere in the distance, Charles Kensington prepared his next move. But for now, in a small apartment filled with coffee-scented air and unspoken trust, something fragile and beautiful began to grow. Sebastian chose motion over hiding. By mid-afternoon, Seattle's cloud cover thickened, the sky a uniform slate that pressed low over the city. From the passenger seat of Sebastian's car, Rosemary watched rain bead and race across the windshield as they crossed the bridge toward the industrial district. She hadn't told him to slow down, but she felt the way he drove, alert, controlled, always scanning reflections like a silent apology. Where are we going? She asked. Someplace neutral, he replied. Someplace honest. She glanced at him. Up close, in daylight filtered through storm clouds, he looked real. Too real for the explanations her mind kept offering. His jaw tightened when traffic slowed. His fingers flexed on the steering wheel, as if holding something back. Sebastian, she said quietly, if this is about keeping me safe, you don't need to. It's not, he interrupted, then softened. Not only that, I need you to understand what you saw last night. And I need to understand why you saw it. They pulled into a converted warehouse near the docks, now a private workspace hidden behind layers of security. Sebastian led her inside, past biometric locks and reinforced doors. Rosemary took it all in, pull steady but quick. Fear had burned itself out earlier. What remained was resolve. Inside, the space felt lived in despite its austerity. Bookshelves lined one wall. Old books, leather-bound, languages she didn't recognize. On another wall hung photographs spanning decades. Cities changing, skylines evolving, the same man standing just out of frame every time. You don't age, she said. Sebastian didn't deny it. I'm a vampire, he said simply. The word hung in the air. Rosemary waited for panic. It didn't come. Instead, something clicked into place. Every oddity snapping together like a solved equation. Okay, she said. He blinked. That's it. I screamed yesterday, she reminded him. I think I'm allowed to be calm today. A laugh escaped him, surprised and genuine. It felt like a victory. He explained then, not mythology, but reality. The way their kind survived by blending in. The old rules of secrecy. The new dangers of technology. In Charles Kensington. Kensington believes the future belongs to those who take it, Sebastian said. He doesn't see immortality as a curse. He sees it as a resource. Rosemary's jaw tightened. So, I'm a loose end. You're more than that, Sebastian said quickly. But to him, yes. Across the city, Charles Kensington stood before a floor-to-ceiling window, the harbor spread beneath him. His assistant handed him a tablet. We found her, the man said. Rosemary Hale. No priors. Ordinary life. Kensington smiled. Ordinary people make the best leverage. They don't think they're part of the game. If you've ever hated people who use others like tools, people who believe empathy is weakness, then you already know how villains like Kensington thrive. They count on silence, on people looking away. If you're not on his side, make it known. Only manipulators stay quiet. Back at the warehouse, night fell. Rosemary sat on a couch while Sebastian prepared blood packs in the adjoining room. His movements careful, almost shy. You don't have to hide that from me, she said. He met her gaze. I don't want you to see me as a monster. She stood, closing the distance between them. I saw a man who went out of his way not to hurt anyone. A man who could have walked away last night, but didn't. Her hand found his. He stiffened, then relaxed, centuries of restraint loosening just enough to let something human through. I don't know what this makes us, she said softly. Neither do I, he replied. But I want to find out. Outside, unseen, a car idled at the end of the block, its occupants watching, waiting. The war Kensington had started was tightening its grip. But inside the warehouse, beneath humming lights and the quiet promise of honesty, something stronger than fear took root. And for the first time since immortality had claimed him, Sebastian Caldwell felt hope. Dangerous, bright, and worth fighting for. Night settled over Seattle like a hell breath. Sebastian felt it first, the subtle pressure in the air, the way the city's pulse shifted when predators moved with intention. He stood at the warehouse window, watching headlights smear into pale ribbons along the wet streets below. Rosemary sat behind him on the couch, knees tucked to her chest, wrapped in a borrowed jacket that smelled faintly of cedar and something darker she couldn't name. "They're close," he said. Rosemary didn't ask how he knew. She trusted him now in a way that felt both terrifying and inevitable. "Kensington, yes." She rose and came to stand beside him, their shoulders almost touching. "Then let's stop waiting." Sebastian turned, surprised. "This isn't your fight." She met his gaze without flinching. "The moment he decided my life was leverage, he made it my fight." For a heartbeat, Sebastian saw centuries of solitude reflected back at him. And then something new eclipsed it. Partnership. Choice. He nodded once. "Then we do this together." They moved quickly. Sebastian contacted the few allies he still trusted. Others like him, hidden in plain sight, weary of Kensington's expanding reach. Rosemary, practical and unafraid, used what she knew best: people. She called coworkers, regulars, friend to friends. Information flowed in. A black sedan seen too often. A security firm with too many non-disclosure agreements. A gala Kensington was hosting the next night. Cameras guaranteed, influence concentrated. "He wants control," Rosemary said. "So we take away his shadow." The gala unfolded in a glass-walled museum overlooking the water, all curated light and curated lies. Kensington stood at its center, polished and smiling, shaking hands with donors and politicians. He believed himself untouchable. That was his mistake. Sebastian entered not as prey, but as host, his name on a wing of the building, his donation impossible to ignore. Rosemary walked beside him, not hidden, not afraid. Cameras flashed. Whispers spread. Kensington noticed. Their eyes met across the room. Recognition sparked, then irritation, then something colder. Kensington excused himself and approached, smile sharpened. "You're persistent," he said softly, "and you brought your waitress." Rosemary stepped forward before Sebastian could stop her. "My name is Rosemary Hale." "Say it." A flicker of annoyance crossed Kensington's face. "You think this ends well for you?" Sebastian leaned in, voice calm and deadly. "It ends tonight." At his signal, the room shifted. Screens along the walls flickered to life, replacing art with evidence, transactions, orders, recordings. Coal ransoms encrypted calls. Payments tied to black ops. The sniper himself appeared on screen. Testimony recorded, face hollow with the knowledge that Kensington would abandon him the moment he was inconvenient. Gasps rippled. Phones came out. The shadow cracked. Kensington's smile collapsed. "You can't prove—" "You already did," Rosemary said, "by thinking no one would stand up." Security moved in, not Kensington's but the museum's. Then the police. The influence he relied on scattered like birds. As he was led away, Kensington locked eyes with Sebastian, hatred burning. "This isn't over." Sebastian smiled faintly. "For you, it is." When the doors closed behind the fallen tyrant, the room exhaled. Reporters swarmed. Sebastian deflected, disappeared. Rosemary felt a hand take hers, warm and steady. They stood on the waterfront afterward, the city glittering, rain easing into mist. Sirens faded into distance. The war had been dragged into the light. and light, Sebastian knew, was fatal to men like Kensington. I don't know what happens next, Rosemary said. Sebastian turned to her, reverent. We choose. He kissed her then, not hurried, not hungry, but certain. Love, he realized, was the bravest rebellion of all. If you believe people like Kensington shouldn't get away with using others, if you refuse to side with predators who hide behind power, then say it. Comment that you stand for justice. Like and subscribe if you're not on the side of manipulators and bullies. Only those who support men like Kensington stay silent. Sebastian and Rosemary walked into the night together, the future unwritten but finally theirs. And somewhere deep in the city's veins, the darkness learned it could lose. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. It really means a lot that you spent some time here with me today. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, drop a comment, or share it with someone who might enjoy it too. And don't forget to follow/subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I love hearing from you. So let me know your thoughts, questions, or just say hi in the comments. Thanks again. You're the reason I do this, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.